It is a joint work with Andan Nguyen in Aachen, Germany, and my colleague of Lille, Abdelbasset Ouassat. The first part is devoted to the development of deterministic variational framework. Next, there will be a probabilization of this formalism. First of all, we discuss some important point. Realistic dynamical systems are subjected to energy loss. Non-conservative ones, for non-conservative ones, the loss stems from external actions. Their behavior can be represented by Hamilton's least action principle. For dissipative one, the cause of energy loss is internal due to various phenomena such as collisions, friction, plasticity, viscosity, fracture, but this list is not exhaustive. Hamilton's variational principle, failing for such dissipative systems, we want to propose another one for them. And we need two functions. For the reversible part of the behavior, conservative or not, we have the well-known smooth Hamiltonian H. For the dissipative one, we need a second function, a dissipation potential phi, non-smooth but convex. We are working for modeling some words about symplectic mechanics. We are working in the phase space of which the elements Z are gathered degrees of freedom, X, which can be also fields, and the respective momenta Y. Thanks to the symplectic form, here in a simple form for the canonical symplectic one, defined with skew symmetric operator J, we can define the symplectic gradient, also called in the literature Hamiltonian vector field, XH. It is compound of the classical gradient and the J operator, and allows to restitute the equation of motion as canonical equations. But there is a more general definitions given here for any perturbation of dz. It is obtained by replacing the dual pairing by the symplectic form in the classical definition of the gradient. This is a trick that will be used later on. Now, for dissipative systems, we decompose the velocity z dot into reversible and irreversible parts. The key idea being that if the system doesn't dissipate, the irreversible part vanishes, and the system is governed by the canonical equations. Now, this is a crucial bond. We want to confront the tools of the differential geometry, which are smooth, and the one of the convex analysis, which are non-smooth. The dissipation potential, phi, is convex and equipped with a set of generalized, non-unique gradients, set called the subgradient, partial of phi, defined by Janin equations. Now, we invent a new subdifferential called symplectic, partial omega of phi, simple sleight of hand in the definition of the usual subdifferential by replacing the dual pairing by the symplectic form. And also symplectic polar function phi star omega by the same sleight of hand in the definition of the usual Legendre-Fenchel transform. Because of the sub, phi and phi star omega satisfies an identity given here called the symplectic Fenchel inequality. Now, on this ground, with Marius Bolliger, I proposed for dynamical systems an extension of the Bredsis-Ekelund-Nerol principle, in short, Ben principle. The extension will be called the symplectic Ben principle. It claims that the natural evolution curve in the phase space minimizes this functional built from the dissipation potential, the Hamiltonian, and the symplectic form. Among all the curves verifying the initial condition, and remarkably, the minimum is 0. It is because of the symplectic Fenchel-Legendre inequality, and the integrand, integrand is non-negative. Now, in the second, we will present application for mechanics of solids in small strains, but there is possible extension to finite strains. In two words, we have to work on the tangent bundle to a manifold. And this cross-cutting way, we obtained a minimum principle for Navier-Stokes equation. But it's another topic, and now I discuss the application to the standard viscoplasticity. This is a material behavior in which this is the viscous velocity, strain viscous velocity, the stress. In this behavior, you have a stress pole, the yield stress. Below it, the behavior is reversible, elastic, and beyond it, there is a viscous yielding. The total Hamiltonian of the structure are the degrees of freedom are the displacement field, U, and the irreversible strain fields. And the respective momentum pi will be discussed further. The total Hamiltonian of the structure is taken of this form with it is made from the kinetic energy, the elastic one, and the work of the external forces within the solid, omega, and on the boundary. Then, the derivative of H being taken in the sense of calculus of variation, because the degrees of freedom are fields. We obtain the following expression for the elevator part of the velocity, introducing, as usual, the stress field as the gradient of the elastic energy. Now we have to calculate the symplectic Fenchel transform of the dissipation potential given by this expression for these degrees of freedom. Now, to obtain classical formulations, we put a strong hypothesis. We suppose that this potential depends on z dot only through pi dot, the three other components of the velocity being ignorable. So the result of the calculation is that the symplectic Fenchel transforms is has a finite value where phi dot is the usual polar functions. If P is a linear momentum, the balance of linear momentum is satisfied in the solid and on the boundary, and interestingly, pi dot equals sigma. That reveals the physical meaning of the new variable pi. Now, bear in mind the expression of the functional of the symplectic band principle. We particularize to this kind of degrees of freedom, and also we integrate by part the last term and obtain the following new expressions. This functional has to be minimizes among all curves satisfying the initial and boundary conditions. Also, these two relations. Of course, we can eliminate now pi dot, we replace it by sigma, and finally, there is an interesting case of the quasi-static limit, when the kinetic energy vanishes. So we obtain a two-field functional depending on the stress and displacement field. We have to minimize avec the previous conditions and now the internal equilibrium equations in absence of the inertial forces. We can note that it's possible to extend to non-standard constitutive laws such as Coulomb's drive frictions by the bit potential approach that I introduced in 92. Now, this is for first example to illustrate the one-dimensional plasticity. It is represented by this behavior. In the elastic domain, when the stress is between -1 and 1, the yield stress, the behavior is elastic. And when we reach the threshold in traction or in compression, we have plastic yielding. So we have a non-smooth behavior, and it can be deduced from the dissipation potentials, very special because it is zero on the elastic domain, infinite otherwise, and the corresponding polar functions, absolute value. For unitary elastic modulus, we obtain this particular form of pi. In the second, we impose the strain loading. So we have only the stress as variable, and we perform a classical time discretization. So we have to solve optimization problem under constraints by mathematical programming. Now, this is a simple loading with a cyclic strain from 0 to 2, and we come back to 0. The elastic response in stress obtained by solving the band principle is the following. We obtain, as expected, a solution, an evolution with 3 phases: elastic loading, followed by plastic yielding, and elastic unloading. It is widespread belief that the elastoplastic evolution of structures can be obtained only computing one step after the other. On the contrary, with the band principles, we have a consistent overview of the overall evolution of the structures, computing simultaneously all the steps. Now, this is another application with a structure problem, an elastoplastic thick tube with increasing internal pressure. We use 2 mixed finite elements and solve in 3 time steps. The solution obtained by the band principle, the stars, are in very good agreement with exact analytical solutions, the solid lines. You observe also the spreading of plasticity from the internal boundary. It is here limited by the point with the slope discontinuity of the hoop stress. Now, this is the last part. We would like to probabilize this model for a system with a very, very huge number of particles, for example. Now, the phase space is viewed as a space of microstates, Z. We would like to found to give a mathematical basis to the statistical mechanics of dissipative transitions between two macrostates. For the initial state, microstate Z0 and the final one Z1, we consider the respective Gibbs probability measures, where the zeta is Planck's potential or Massieu potential, and beta is the reciprocal temperature. Now, the idea is that we adopt as const functions the infimum of the functional pi of the symplectic band principle on the set of curves from Z0 to Z1. It is worth to remind that it is not necessarily zero because we impose both the initial and final conditions. Now, for a measurable map T from the phase space into itself, T of mu0 denotes the push forward of mu0, its image. Inspiring from Monch's optimal transportation problem, we claim that among all the transport maps T, so that mu1 equal T of mu0, the natural one minimizes functionals, integrating on the phase space the cost function with the initial probability measure. There is another alternative, interesting, due to Kantorovich. We consider the set gamma of mu0, mu1 of all probability measure gamma on the Cartesian product of the phase space by itself, with marginals mu0 on the first factor and mu1 the second one. Then we claim that the natural probability measure, gamma, minimizes these functionals integrating the cost function with the gamma measure within this set, gamma of mu0, mu1. The advantage of Kantorovich formulation that the problem is linear with respect to gamma, while Monch's one is non-linear with respect to T. In conclusions, using the concept of symplectic subdifferential, we propose the modification of the Hamiltonian formalism for dissipative systems. The formalism can be applied to the standard plasticity in small strain with extension to finite strains and non-standard plasticity. Ongoing developments are expected within a starting international cooperation project between Lille and Aachen, funded by the French Agence Nationale de la Recherche and the respective German agency DLG. The final target is to simulate numerically very complex behavior, nonlinear, of up to the collapse of metallic plates solicited in the shock tubes. In the second part, we show how the dissipative transition between macrostates can be viewed in a statistical point of view as an optimal transportation problem. Thank you very much for your attention.
Two questions about this symplectic Legendre transformation. One is that if you would have a left dual and a right dual, because Unlike the symmetric one, you only have one dual. Do you have two duals? Two conjugates. Because your left and your.
I didn't investigate deeply all the properties of these transforms. Now we are working on possible applications, but of course taking into account of properties of convexity and maybe also of lower semi-continuity. I think that there are more investigation in this case. What happens if you apply
to the left and to the right
times?
No, not 2 times, but to the left and to the right.
No, I applied to Z dot.
To the first slot, and you have the first slot and the second slot. When you switch that, you change the sign. That's it.
Yes.
So
no, I don't.
It depends on which slot you're talking about.
There is an order.
Okay.
I minimize with respect to the second variable.
Okay.
But what happens if you swap one variable for the other? I don't know.
And there is also a more serious problem with this. In the case of the bilinear form, exists in any dimensional space. Symplectic form exists only in even dimensional space. Even dimensional space. Yes. So
it is even because the momentum, there is the same number of momentum than in this formulation than the degree of freedom.
So the symplectic form is a bilinear form of even dimensional vectors, right? So the omega, you have two vectors, both of them have to be even dimensional vector. So whereas in the bilinear form, you have n position and n momentum, right? That's where you get to the symplectic structure, right? But if you are using, so that's why in the Lejeune transform, you can have any dimension. Because of the pair, because now in your symplectic case, you need 2n dimension, you need even, and I don't know, I then do not see where this extra dimension come out.
Surely there are possible generalizations, for instance, considering a pre-symplectic form. But now, in this case, we consider only this particular case of the applications. That's not, you don't agree. I don't understand well, maybe your question. But we could discuss that.
Any other questions?
I have a question. I was wondering about numerical methods. You have a nice formulation based on the recent principle. Do you have an idea of what is the best way to discretize this?
The problem in this, generally people are working, as I said, step by step. So we discretize only the space. And when we solve the step time, you pass to the following one. But this is very ambitious because we want to work on the space time. The problem is that the meshing number of the mesh is increasing explosion. So I think in the second phase, now we are working in very small problems, but for problem with great number of freedoms, I think it's necessary to combine it with what we call now the reduction, model reduction techniques. So we start with a very small number of the degree of freedoms, and we obtain a rough approximation representing the global evolution of the system, and next we correct it. This is an iterative process in which we enrich the interpolation.